Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and we got new Sabrina Carpenter and the Lil Wayne album bomb for the Carter 6. Not exactly for the better, and this, it's Billboard Breakdown.
I don't remember.
Yeah, there are two actual stories this week worth discussing at length. The first and most unsurprising and depressing is that we actually did get a Lil Wayne album bomb, where you can absolutely tell that the songs that charted covered just enough of the track list to pinpoint when audiences started bailing, and fast. The Carter 6 as a whole is bad, and I generally don't review legacy acts on my main channel, which is where Wayne is at this point of his career, which is arguably just as true in the late 2010s with the Carter 5, so we'll see how all of it falls out. But our second story naturally takes us into the top 10, where we actually did get that new number one. I'll admit I was wrong. Manchild by Sabrina Carpenter. We'll talk about the song much later on, I got a lot to say, but I've already seen some folks saying that by this, she's helping save mainstream pop music, and, well, you know this isn't gonna hold the number one, right? It's got tremendous streams, and YouTube and radio's trying to push it as fast as they can, but you're running up against a bunch of entrenched tracks that, no joke here, without the addition of Manchild, would not have moved at all. Case in point, Ordinary by Alex Warren fell back to number 2, but the radio loves it, people are still buying it, and streaming is still strong. It's gonna hold past Sabrina's burst of virality, probably go back to number 1. This is also somewhat true for the next two Morgan Wallen songs, with What I Want with Tate McRae at number 3, not rising as quickly as Sabrina on the radio, and lagging just behind on streaming, but it is stable, as is Just In Case at number 4, which has way more Nashville radio that's not going anywhere. Where things might get kind of interesting are with Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA down at number 5, mostly because it is definitely on the downswing on streaming and radio, but the margin is thick enough that it's not falling that fast, which is sadly also the case for I'm the Problem by Morgan Wallen at number 6, because people are still streaming this damn thing enough to hold up against the slow radio losses. Then we got a bar song, Tipsy by Shaboozey at number 7, which had a weirdly inconsistent radio week and streaming gains to hold position, and that's also somewhat the case with Die With A Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars at number 8. The radio is wavering, streaming now in full decline. And I wish that was the case for our next two songs, starting with Lose Control by Teddy Swims clinging on to number 9, and Beautiful Things by Benson Boone at number 10, when they both actually had mostly good radio weeks and picked up streaming again. As long as these two tracks are still in the top 10 with traction in multiple channels, I cannot say that the charts have shaken off any kind of stagnation. They should have been gone months ago. So naturally we got our losers and dropouts, where the only one of the latter that really matters is Twilight Zone by Ariana Grande, just not getting any traction. Quite frankly, I'm shocked it lasted this long given the charts in 2025. As for our losers, well, let's get the Morgan Wallen story out of the way first. Superman at 38, Dark Till Daylight at 60, I'm a Little Crazy at 70, Eyes Are Closed at 71, Where'd That Girl Go at 79, Kick Myself at 84, Skull, Chevy and Browning at 85, If You Were Mine at 89, Kiss Her in Front of You at 91, and Missing at 96. Yes, even with a Lil Wayne album bomb, there are still that many songs from Morgan Wallen sticking around. Now for the rest, well, to the surprise of nobody, Cliche by Machine Gun Kelly kept losing at 94, Whim Whammy by Pluto and YK Nice lost all the gains at 66, and off the debut we saw Just Keep Watching by Tate McRae stumble down to 51, and Ooh Ooh by Lil Tecca oddly down at 69. You also saw losses for Dark Thoughts at 63. I imagine with the album impact they're gonna rebound. Outside those, well, Am I Okay by Mega Maroney saw traction sputter again at 45, and Mi Halo by Fuerza Regida and Grupo Frontera fell to 86. Can't say I'm that surprised with either. Even if Am I Okay, it's probably going to make the year-end list in 2025 with one hell of a sleeper run. Gotta say, I'm kind of impressed. Now for our returns and gains. Gotta say, there's not much worth discussing. I'm not happy that Gnarly by Cat's Eye somehow came back to 90 thanks to the remix with Ice Spice. And the gains, well, split the difference here. We got Fame as a Gun by Addison Rae up off the debut to 73, likely thanks to the album impact, but Love Me Not by Raven Lenae is seeing real traction across the board up to 23. If there's a hit that'll sneak up on people, it'll probably be this one. But again, the story here is that we are in album bomb territory with Lil Wayne and the Carter 6. Small album bombs, so we're only going to be considering the songs that broke the top 40, the best or the worst. But outside those, King Carter at 97, he's not even on the song, it's an intro. Cotton Candy with 2 Chainz at 93, Bells at 65, Welcome to the Carter at 62, dangerously close to dishonorable mention, trying to slip the AI sample past me does not bode well, and Sharks with Jelly Roll and Big Sean, well, Big Sean stole the entire song at 54. Okay, that thankfully makes this week a little easier. Let's get this started with number 95, Type Dangerous by Mariah Carey.
I like I'm dangerous. I'm looking for the dangerous.
You're blocking my light.
I said I like I'm dangerous.
Not gonna lie, I was a bit shocked to see a new single from Mariah charting, much less one that's got a sample from Eric B. and Rakim. Apparently, this is the lead-off single for her first album since 2018's Caution, an album I quite like where none of the diehard stans seem to grasp that. Co-written by Anderson .Paak, and ooh, wow, you can really tell. From the stuttering chop of the sample, to the guitar rollick backed up by the new jack swing percussion, to especially the very conversational flow from Mariah herself, which is an odd swerve with her delivery. She's got the poise and charisma to handle modern hip-hop influenced patter. She's done so in the past in the 2000s. But when you've got someone who can belt like her, it's kind of weird the song doesn't use more of that. Granted, I think there should be more of this song as a whole. It ends rather abruptly after the bridge where I was expecting a final hook to go off, and it leaves the track feeling kind of abortive. Kind of a shame because the content's really intriguing, as Mariah Carey describes past relationships set aside as she's on the prowl for a new man who can match that dangerous energy and drama, of which I completely believe that she can sell it. She's good at this. But the song again feels a bit small for her. The sort of track that Beyonce can really elevate and transcend, but this is territory that comes a bit less naturally for Mariah, especially when compositionally it really could afford to do a bit more. Again, fun R&B throwback. I do like this. It's a good song. I just want to like it a little more. Number 74, Sapphire by Ed Sheeran.
I could do this all week. We'll be dancing till the morning, go to bed, we won't sleep. Chumma, kiss it, daddy, body, touching on your body while you're pushing on me. Don't you in the party? I could do this all week. We'll be dancing till the morning, go to bed, we won't sleep. Chumma, kiss it, daddy, body.
Okay, third time's the charm. Azazam was a fine enough radio single, but Old Phone fell really flat for me as a ballad. So when the buzz was suggesting this was his strongest single of the album rollout so far, I was kind of intrigued, albeit a bit worried with how the Indian influences would translate with the uncredited feature from Arijit Singh, where he actually did record the song in India with a separate Punjabi version. And, okay, honestly, I'm a bit cooler and more conflicted on it than I want to be, because it is essentially a rattling Ed Sheeran acoustic pop song with some Indian influences in the rhythm section and the backing vocals, with faint airy cascades around the pulsing beat that reminds me a lot of whenever Coldplay dabbles across genres and cultures and comes across as stiffer than you might otherwise hope. Granted, some of this is the production sounding more compressed than it really should. This has been a real issue across all the singles from Play. Why can't the producers let Ed Sheeran's mix breathe is baffling to me, especially with his vocals, and I also don't think the lyrics are particularly special. There's a passing reference to karma, which is probably better than overselling any broader Indian references or connection, but as a pretty stock romantic dance song, it's not as lyrically idiosyncratic as Ed Sheeran can be. It's certainly catchy, and by terms of cultural exchange, I can hear sincerity in the execution, I'll give him that. I can imagine it working, and maybe even growing on me, but I don't know, it's decent, but not fully there yet. Number 61, Banned from New Orleans by Lil Wayne.
Chain tighter, the close range sniper, the dope game lifer, her throat game nicer, the propane lighter, money old like Biden. I walk Walk around like King Tut, got it out the mud, I cleaned up. I'm blinged up, shirt off, bitch, I'm inked up. Don't blink once, sip pink punch. She drink nuts, she eat dick, I bring lunch. Say she bout that action, I'ma fuck her till she scream cut.
Okay, bit of backstory with this one. Savvy listeners will recognize the Band from TV sample flip from Nori, a pretty legendary track featuring The Lox, Nature, Cameron, and Big Pun from the late 90s. But if you know your Lil Wayne mixtapes, you would know he's already flipped this song in 2009 on No Ceilings. So now it's effectively a remake of a now cleared song. And here's a hot take, I actually don't love that 2009 flip. Part of this is that mixtape era mastering has aged really haphazardly, and look, most of Lil Wayne's punchlines were good, but Band from TV is a classic, and I never thought he did enough on it. And while I keep up with all the hot takes, I actually think this kind of sounds better. It's still not on the tier of Band from TV, but his melodic flow is tighter, there's an actual hook that I think's got some real bounce against the slightly muffled sample, and better mastered percussion and scratching, and while the punchlines aren't quite as flavorful or creative, they flow together more effectively, especially with the second verse being a very deliberate homage to Nori's verse. Now, I don't love the outro being so obviously extended. It only serves to remind me of the better song that this is skating on. But even if you think Lil Wayne should sound way hungrier to pay off the track, I can recognize the competent execution. It's not great, but from Wayne at this point, I'll take decent. Number 56, Touch Me Like a Gangster by Jessie Murph.
Come talk with me. I love how tender you are with me, but I got a side that you ought to see, baby.
Okay, this is why you don't give artists who continuously churn out garbage more hits, because eventually they'll make the sort of song that's effectively impossible to defend if you've got any dignity. I've been against Jessie Murph for a while now, but with Blue Strips as a bona fide hit, thanks America, we can get this. And I'm sorry, is this the mid-2010s with this faux retro bullshit where the attempt at provocation is trying to juxtapose an old-fashioned stylism with edgy modern lyrics? But then it clicked, and I somehow was even more disgusted. Getting away from the dregs of country, Jessie Murph wants to be the late Amy Winehouse, with the big hair and the vintage pop and blues throwback and the provocative framing completely utterly misses Amy Winehouse's real-world intensity and grit, to say nothing of a proper grounding in the classics. This feels like a Riverdale core cosplay, where Jessie Murph likes getting naughty because she likes rough sex, and even if that's true, it doesn't sound sexy or interesting or remotely appealing because the atmosphere never coalesces. Part of it's how the groove is just way too leaden and swamps out any of the faint pianos or fake strings, or how the song is just way too short to build off it effectively. But the real problem, once again, Jessie Murph herself. She tries to be a bit more subtle, a little Billie Eilish playfulness on the first verse, but by the time she is in her squawking louder register, somewhere between Betty Boop, a mob wife, and Donald Duck, she sounds utterly out of her depth. I would almost call this a joke or parody if there was any punchline whatsoever, but we're not that lucky. I refuse to believe there is any sophistication or even irony here. So yeah, once again, Jessie Murph continues to be one of the most embarrassing mainstream acts in recent memory. This blows. Next. Number 42, Typa by GloRilla.
610 thug ass, talk real slick, big gun ass. Pick a bitch up when we fuck, strong ass nigga. Making them play, stacking that pay. Buy me whatever I want, ass nigga. 3 pointers on the chain, fresh new J's, AMG switch lanes ass.
Oh, thank God, GloRilla's got a quick Keisha Cole flip. That's some welcome respite. Granted, I'm still thoroughly convinced that she could mine at least 2 more singles off of Glorious. Don't Deserve with Money Long is right there. That's a slam dunk, old-fashioned radio crossover. Come on. Because this just isn't much of anything, and that's kind of disappointing. That guitar and vocal sample is pitched down to a rather weird timbre behind the rattling patter and trap snare that's way blockier than it should be. Granted, this is also something of a problem with Love by Keisha Cole, not exactly one of my favorite R&B songs of 2005, and the fact that it barely runs 2 minutes as GloRilla wants a gangsta dude who works as hard as she does so they can stay out of each other's business and don't need to interfere, but still can connect and fuck. fuck. I mean, it's not unfamiliar territory for her, but she could have done a little bit more with it. A third verse would have been fine. What worries me is that this is getting any attention compared to the slam dunks I know she has on that last album. Given how strong her 2024 was, I want to see the follow through, and I'm sorry, don't think this is it. Number 36, Hip Hop by Lil Wayne and BigXThaPlug featuring Jay Jones.
I'm active, boy, don't get dry. Niggas hoes, they walk with flip-flops. Hey, rats with cheese, they get chopped. From the slum straight to the tip top. It's on me, bitch, don't get popped.
Alright, look, for as much as Lil Wayne has had the reputation of killing features the past several years, it's probably not a good sign that the best thing I was hearing about the Carter 6 is that BigXThaPlug beat out Wayne on his own song. Even as someone who likes BigXThaPlug a decent bit, that should not happen. Now, it's also not entirely accurate. BigXThaPlug doesn't actually have a verse on Hip Hop, but around the muted, seedy warp of the guitar melody against that rubbery knock of the beat, his hook is arguably the most memorable part of this track, at least until Jay Jones hops from Wayne mixtapes onto the album proper to also kinda steal the show. The violent braggadociousness, it's not that special or uniquely framed, but Jay Jones got some character to his delivery with the run-on sentence flow. It feels very Big Sean inspired to me, and I'd certainly prefer him to whatever Lil Wayne is trying to do here. His half-crooning over attempts at violence has never been that convincing throughout his career, even less so if we buy that the whole tick 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 reference was a subliminal at Pusha T at perhaps the worst possible time, with Clips reunited and dropping an album in a couple of weeks, and his clumsy, barely on beat second verse shows just how ill-equipped he would be for that fight, even if the bars mostly connect. But Lil Wayne being the worst part of his own song on arguably one of the better songs on this album, it's not bad, but I won't call it a win either. And finally, number 1, Manchild by Sabrina Carpenter.
Just ain't there. Manchild, why you always come running, taking all my loving from me?
And now, the big one, where apparently Sabrina Carpenter wants to strike while the iron is hot, following off the deluxe issue of Short and Sweet, with a new album coming with this as the lead-off single. I might as well also touch on Sabrina Carpenter's album cover and all that controversy on a project called Man's Best Friend, oh boy, which prompted its own stupid backlash, where I actually think the issue is a bit more complicated than a lot of bad social media discourse makes it out to be. Because I got no problem with Sabrina Carpenter playing with rough sex or kink or transgressive framing and gender roles. Although, side note, if you're gonna pull hair at all, you want your hand closer to the roots to establish dominance. We're getting off topic here, especially as it's clear Sabrina Carpenter's in on all of this. She's clearly trying to be ironic. That's why she's looking at the camera on the album cover. But I go back to what I say in terms of those who often say or do things ironically tend to wind up believing it unironically. Given how she frames gender roles on parts of Short and Sweet, it's not even surprising. Especially when mainstream audiences and social media, they're not exactly engaging with artistic discourse around women in pop trying to be sexual with any sophistication. And I think there's something to acknowledging how this will play in a cultural climate that's been trending more conservative, especially how this might wind up biting Sabrina Carpenter down the road. Ask Lana Del Rey how it's all worked out for her. If you know, you know. Now, regardless of all that, Manchild is the other side of that coin, a kiss off to dumb dudes and a very ramshackle slice of pop country with some cheaply brittle 80s synths, a shuffling gallop of percussion, and the sort of ragged but kind of plastic twang that reminds me that Jack Antonoff has a much weaker grasp of this brand of country if the guitar tones aren't allowed to get more warm or burnished. The mix as a whole kind of feels stitched together and not in the good way. It's reminiscent of Please Please Please, but with a marginally better groove behind it. But speaking of Please Please Please, there's also more going on in the lyrics that recalls that song, because for as much as she is dissing this guy for not being able to keep his life together, she herself has described in interviews as this being a loving eye roll. She doesn't choose these dumb guys, they choose her, and she's got the patience to mother them because apparently their own moms didn't pull their due weight. And am I the only one spotting how regressive and kind of backwards this all is, seemingly imported from a lazy sitcom from the 80s or 90s? Y'all might think that millennial self-esteem anthems were kind of cringe in the mid-2010s, and okay, fair enough, they often were, but between this and What I Want by Morgan Wallen and Tate McRae, or hell, I don't know, how Jessie Murph is playing the other side of the Madonna whore divide on the song She charted just this week, it strikes a really sour note for me in this dating down for sport. And it says something that the industry is really pushing this in absence of damn near anything else. And again, Sabrina Carpenter can do whatever she wants. If she's into this, fine. I can call this song mediocre, just moving on. But let's try to engage a little bit deeper and holistically in all of this. All I'm saying. And that's our week. Oh my god, what a mess. I don't have many kind things to say here at all. I guess Type Dangerous by Mariah Carey is gonna get the top spot. Her working with Anderson .Paak at least has some vestige of quality. With a credible honorable mention, oh fuck it. A tie going to Banned from New Orleans by Lil Wayne and Sapphire by Ed Sheeran. I gotta hope the latter's got enough staying power to really grow for me. I think the potential is there. Now for the worst, alright, look, Touch Me Like a Gangster by Jessie Murph is running away with it, and dishonorable mention would normally go to Lil Wayne, but Manchild by Sabrina Carpenter has already given me enough of a headache as it is, especially as it's likely gonna sour exactly the same way Please 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 did on me. Let's just be grateful the truly awful Lil Wayne deep cuts did not chart. All I am saying. Next week, I gotta be honest, I'm not sure. Maybe a small Lil Tecca album bomb. We'll have to see how all this falls out. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.